Okay, in our last tying video, I tied a couple of woolly bugger variations in a few different colours, shapes and sizes. Today we're going to step things up a bit. I've got this in the vise. This is Kelly Galloup's Dungeon, Sex Dungeon. It's a great articulated streamer. It's got 2 hooks in it, nice big profile, and today I'm going to show you how to tie one. Now I like this fly for rivers and lakes, especially on the drift boat when you want something really big, nice big profile to annoy a big brown. This deer hair head pushes a lot of water and doesn't fold back like marabou or rabbit fur, for example. It stays nice and proud and pushes a lot of water, so nice broad head. It imitates, in this color at least, the natural or a brown, like a little brown trout. It's great to have a few different colors of these, and it's a really good platform to go. You can size it down, you can size it up. A lot of different things you can do with it. And yeah, I'm gonna show you how to tie one. To start off with the hook, I'm gonna use a Fulling Mill streamer stripper. It's a great sort of stinger style hook. It's got a ring eye too, which is gonna help with the articulation. And this is in a size 2. So I'm gonna use a size 2 for the back hook and a size 1 for the front hook. Now, starting off with a bit of 140 denier in black. Just gonna lay a nice thread base down here. Now we're gonna start our tail here. We're gonna use a bit of marabou. We're actually gonna use 2 colors of marabou. Gonna use some brown and some tan as well. I'm gonna put the tan in first. That's gonna sit on the bottom, so it's gonna go light to dark. It's gonna have a nice two-tone color, this fly. Now selecting marabou is one of the trickier things in this streamer game that we've got, but select a feather that's got nice, wispy, sort of flowing fibers. You can see that there. It's got a nice amount of bulk, no sort of wiry fibers. Now one thing that's handy to do when you're working with marabou is all this wispiness, especially because we've got a lot of marabou and a lot of material going in this fly. It can get a bit crazy when you've got a bunch of fluff going everywhere. So you can wet your fingers, preen that marabou down into a nice flat, easy to deal with clump of material. Now I'm going to set this tail up here about, it's going to be more than the full hook in length, and we're just going to transfer that measurement towards the back. You definitely don't want to go too short on the tail. This fly is designed to move and sort of dart around when we're stripping it in the water, and if we've got a short little stumpy tail, it's not going to move very well. So nice long tail set right at the bend of the hook there, nice firm wraps. So once we've got our tan piece of marabou tied in, I'm just going to wrap that butt end all the way up the hook shank, keeping everything nice and smooth as we go forward. And I'm just going to stop just short of the eye there. Come back towards the tail for our second stack of marabou. So I've got a piece of brown here again, just wet that down. I'm going to measure that up to the same length as we've done the tan. Same as the tan, I'm just going to wrap that butt end down. Now I'm tying this in a natural color, obviously it's going to be brown and tan, so it's going to be sort of like a brown trout color, and that's why I'm going to use some red crystal flash. So I've got 3 strands of crystal flash. I'm just going to tie that at the midpoint right on top of the hook shank. Then what I can do is take one side of that and tie it down along my side of the tail. Then I can flip it around and tie it down on your side of the tail. Now I'm just going to trim that flash a hair longer than the tail, like that. Perfect, so that's our tail done. Next up, I'm going to tie a little bit of some small copper wire in. Take a nice long section, makes it nice and easy to work with. Now I'm going to create a dubbing loop here for our body material. I'm just going to use a bit of tan dubbing. Take a nice long section of thread, double that over, and close that loop up. Now I've got a bit of tan UV sort of ice dub. That's what I'm going to use for the body of this. It's going to make it nice and flashy underneath. I'm just going to open this piece of dubbing up and slot it into the loop. I'm just going to give this a nice spin. You can see that spinning up that dubbing rope. I'm just going to take my dubbing brush and pick out the loose fibers. Now once I'm here, I can start wrapping all the way up. I've just gone a little bit short on that. I'm just going to finger dub a little bit extra in there just to cover that front bit. Now I'm not going to leave a little gap just here at the start of the eye. I don't want to crowd the eye on this hook. Just going to brush out that body material, make a nice buggy sort of underbody. There we go. Next up, we've got some hackle. This is just brown neck hackle. I'm going to take a nice long feather. I'm just going to strip off some of this webby, these webbier fibres down here on the bottom. Now I'm just going to tie this hackle feather right at the front edge of the dubbing where we just were. I'm going to start wrapping. I want to do one complete turn right at the front edge there. It's going to make a nice collar and it's going to look nice once we're all done. Spiraling back with the hackle. Run that hackle to the back, and then using that wire that I've tied in, I'm going to catch that hackle feather. It's a bit hard to see from where you are, but I'm going to catch that hackle feather like that. You can see I've just caught the very tip of it. And then now, continuing to hold the wire, I'm going to run back up the body and counter wrap through the hackle to make it nice and strong. And do this nice and quick. If you sit there and try and wiggle your way through every single fibre, you're going to catch a lot of them. It's actually better to run the wire nice and quickly through the hackle. You'll actually catch less. Use the thread to secure that wire down. A couple of wraps, and then just wiggle that wire back and forth, breaking it off. Now I'm going to save that piece of wire for later because I'll use that on the front hook. Now I'm going to start doing the wing. So there's a nice long wing of marabou on the back hook that we're going to do here. Now I'm going to lay this bit of marabou up here, and I want it to go about halfway to a little bit further, a little more than halfway back into the tail here. So I don't want to have this wing nice and short. I want this to flow through this, through the whole fly. So if I overlap this to halfway to the tail or slightly beyond, everything's going to blend together really nicely. So transfer that hand over. Couple of really firm wraps. It's important as well with this wing to keep that bit of marabou right on top of the hook. You don't want it to be on one side because once the fly swimming, it'll tend to roll funny. So keep that marabou right on top of the hook shank, and then clip that excess out of there. Now I've got one more step for the back hook here. I'm going to put a couple of rubber legs in this back hook. These are just some brown sort of streamer rubber legs. So there's two rubber legs that are still joined at the end. Now I'm going to tie these again like the marabou right on top of that hook shank at the midpoint of these rubber legs. And what I can do is I can do two loose-ish wraps, two loose wraps. Then I can actually pick these rubber legs up and manipulate them and change the length. If one's longer than the other, I can slide these down like that. You want to get these exactly where you want them here. It's a lot easier to change it now than it is once the fly's all finished, so you might as well get it right. So once I've got those legs secured at the midpoint, I can come round to the back side of the one close to me and do a figure of 8. What that's going to do is set those legs perpendicular. See how they've gone perpendicular now? I can do another figure of 8 wrap, and those legs are sitting right on top of the fly now. Now those legs don't really look like they're in the right spot, but you actually want them set exactly perpendicular to the hook shank. Once the fly's in the water, they're going to flow back nicely and sort of envelop this marabou as well. So that's perfect there. And that's it for the first hook. So I can take my whip finish tool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. And that's the back hook for our dungeon here. Now these legs, I'm going to trim these all at the same time. I'm going to come back here and trim them just short of the tail. When you're trimming rubber legs as well, you don't want to stretch them and then trim them, because once you stretch them, cut them, they're going to spring back really short. So just gently sweep them back. I'm just going to snip them like that. Perfect. And that's our back hook. And you can see once because we left that gap at the start of the hook shank when we were wrapping our body, I haven't created the hook eye, and that's really important for this next step when we join the two hooks together. So let's do that. Okay, next hook is going to be the same streamer stripper from Fulling Mill, just in a size 1 now. You can do this fly in a lot of different sizes. I've done a size 2 and then a size 1. You can do a size 1, then a size 1/0. You can do a size 4 and a size 6. You can do a lot of different things, as long as the back hook is one size smaller than the front hook, or there or thereabouts. Now to join the two hooks together, you can do a lot of different things. I've got some, I don't even know what this stuff is. I think it's like jewelry wire. They make specific articulation wire that you can get for this sort of application. You can also use braid, really heavy braid. I've just got this stuff, but any wire, or main thing is you want it to be strong. Now before we tie that wire in, I'm actually going to come back towards the front of the hook here and tie in some eyes. Now I've got some of these Fulling Mill tungsten streamer eyes. These are in a size 5mm, and they've got a nice they're painted nicely. You can use any dumbbell eyes you want. You don't want to put the eyes right at the eye of the hook. That's one thing you don't want to do with this fly. You want to come back, let's say, if that's the full hook shank length, let's go a third back from the eye, there or thereabouts. You'll tie a bunch of these and then figure out where exactly you want to put the eyes. But I'm going to come up here, lay the eyes on top of the hook shank, do 2 loose wraps, and then just give it a slight pull, and those eyes will roll to the bottom of the hook. You see that? I'll do that again. So I come up, lay them in, 2 loose wraps, slight pull, and those eyes roll to the bottom. We want to put these eyes on the bottom of the hook shank. If we put the eyes on top, the fly's going to ride upside down, which is what we don't want. We want this fly to ride hook point down exactly how we tied it. So we need to put the eyes underneath the hook shank. So once they're on there, they're really loosely on there. We're just going to hold these and do a couple of figure 8 wraps just to lock them in. And then going back the other way as well. You don't want these eyes to move at all. So take the time, put a few extra thread wraps in there, lock them in nicely. Now before we go too far, it's important to look straight down the length of the fly and make sure those eyes aren't crooked. Now, take the wire and take your fly that you've tied previously. This is our back hook. Slot the wire in through the hook eye. I'm going to come down here about halfway, and then I'm just going to fold this in a loop, this wire, grab the back of the hook. Be careful, it's obviously very sharp. And I'm just going to give this wire a good pull. And what that does for me is it kinks the wire, so that fly sets in there nicely. It's not going to wander around up the wire and all that sort of stuff. Now before I tie that back hook in, I'm going to put a couple of beads on the wire. What that's going to do is it's just going to separate that back hook off, give it a little bit more breathing room, and make sure it swims right. So there's 2 beads there, like that. And then I'm going to tie this wire in with a couple of loose wraps, 3 or 4 loose wraps, so I can manipulate this wire, maybe a little less wraps. So I can pull this wire and manipulate it and set this fly exactly where I want it. Now one thing that's really important here is how far you put this back hook back from the front. You don't want it to be too long. When it's it might look cool and might make the fly longer, and everyone wants the big flies are cool, right? The problem with making it too long though is this back hook's going to tend to foul on the front a lot. On the other end of the spectrum though, you don't want it to be too tight like this so it's all cranked, then it won't swim right. You want to just draw this wire up so the beads just touch the back hook there, like that, and there's a little bit of space still for that back hook to do its thing and swim nicely. So once you're happy with the position, obviously take some thread wraps, really wrap that wire down. This is our connection between the back hook, and if fish hit the back and just nip at the tail of this fly, that stinger hook is usually what's going to hold them. They'll eat the whole thing and crush the front hook as well. But if they get pinned on the stinger hook, you want to make sure it's going to hold on there. So really wrap this wire down nice and securely. I'm going to come all the way up to the front, past the eyes, and I'm going to take this wire and actually fold it back down through the hook eye. So I'm going to put these 2 strands of wire, you can see that there, down through the hook eye, like that, and pull it nice and tight. Then take some thread wraps and come right to the front of the eye, right up to the front, like that. I'm then going to flip my fly over in the vise and take this wire that we've come down through the eye and fold it backwards, back towards the back of the hook, and then keep wrapping that down again. This way I've doubled over the wire. There's absolutely no way that wire is going to pull through from loose thread wraps. It's completely locked in. I can also, as an extra measure, use this wire to come back over the eyes and use the wire that's jumped over the eyes to secure that, to lock the eyes down even more. So once I've got heaps of thread wraps in there, you can cut that wire out of there. Use a pair of pliers or old scissors, whatever you've got. Cut those bits of wire out of there. So that's our back hook secured, right? Before we start tying any materials on there though, I'm going to put a little bit of head cement or super glue or whatever you've got just on these thread wraps. Now be careful when we're tying from now on, because we've got a hook back here. Once you peel your fingers through it, you'll know about it. Ask me how I know. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cover up the join between these two hooks. We're going to cover up these beads a little bit. Just makes the connection a little bit smoother. Once the fly's in the water, there's not like a gap in the middle of the two hooks. So I'm going to take a little bit of tan marabou again. This is a great time to use some of your less your lower quality feathers. What I can do as well is I'm not going to tie this with the stem in. I'm going to take one side of the marabou like this and peel that marabou off the stem. And all we're doing here is making a short cover. It's going to be really short. We just want this marabou to come back a little bit into the back hook. So after I've tied that cover on my side, I can flip my vise around and tie in the second piece. So I've just taken that other section of marabou, strip that off the stem, so you can tie that cover in. Again, we're only going about halfway into the hook shank on the back hook. It's a very short little section just to bridge the gap between the two hooks. And you can see there, that covers up the join there. Now from here, it's the same steps for the body of the front hook as well. So I'm going to start with my wire. We'll speed through this because it's the same steps. Dubbing loop. You can see that's going to start to cord up. Spiral it forwards. And I'm going to stop with this body just shy of the eyes. Just like that. I need to create a lot of room for the head of this fly. And if I crowd the eye, it's just no fun. Tying that feather in at the base of the body. So we're going to go one full turn again, right behind the body for a nice start of the hackle, and then spiral this back. Catch that tip of the hackle feather with your wire like that and spiral forwards. Counter wrapping that hackle, securing it down nicely. Cool, you can wiggle that wire back and forth also and get that out of there. Now I can come back here and trim that hackle stem. Trim the stem out of there. All right, we're getting to the pointy end now. We're going to start to make our final wing of marabou. We're going to use another section of brown. What I'm going to do here though is, because we're trying to build a taper into these flies, right? So on the back hook I use one wing. On the front hook I'm going to use two wings. That's the other wing that we've made. For this front wing, I want to lay this again about halfway into this back wing or slightly beyond. We don't want to go too short. This is the front wing this is what's going to flow really nicely. So lay that back in there, overlap them, measure it up and tie that in. And again, keep this nice and on top of the hook shank. Now I'm going to take a second bit of brown. Now this second feather is nice and easy because we can just lay it exactly the same length as that first one. Trim that tag out of there. Like before, we're going to put a little bit of extra crystal flash in here. So I've got 3 strands of red crystal flash there we can tie in. Like the tail, I'm going to tie this near side first so it flows back, and then fold them over and tie down on your side. Now we want to trim these bits of crystal flash just short of the tail, sort of to the same length as that first wing on the back hook. Just like that. You definitely don't want to go too short. Now I'm going to tie in another section of rubber legs. This time I'm going to do 3. We did 2 on the back hook. We'll do 3 on the front. So you can move those around. Once you're happy with the placement, you can lock them down. And again, I'm going to do that figure of 8 technique to secure those legs down. Being careful not to trap any of your strands of crystal flash or other rubber legs from the back hook. There's a lot going on in this fly, so it's easy to catch materials. Just be careful with it. Now we're at the pointy end of this fly. This is when we're going to create this deer hair head. And that's what the Dungeon's most famous for, I suppose. Okay, so I've got my deer hair here. I've used a bit of this patch, but main thing is it's got not too much under fur, but it's also got nice long fibers. And for a streamer, you need long deer hair. This sort of deer hair is what I use for dry flies, nice and short hairs. You can see the difference in the length of the hair. This hair that I'm going to use for the Dungeon is a lot longer than this short, fine dry fly hair. So I'm going to take a section of hair like this, nice clump. And the main thing we want to do here is pull out the underfur. So you can see deer hair's got all this fuzz and underfur, we call it. We want to make sure we get all of that out of there. So just hold the tips and pull all of this underfur out. You can roll this deer hair in your fingers as well to fan it out. It's a little easy to take some of that fuzz out of there. If we leave all that fuzz in there, the thread doesn't grab the hair right and it won't bind down properly. So we need to get that fuzz out of there. And we've come so far in this fly, right? You might as well spend the time here at the end. This is also the hardest bit. Still getting better at it with each fly I tie. Okay, once you've got a nice section of hair there, you can stack this hair, make nice even tips. It's up personal preference. I stack some of mine. I'm just going to leave this as raw ends. You can just sort of gently line them up like that with your hand. Now what I'm going to do here is measure this deer hair up, and I'm going to go, this is our front wing, right? I'm going to go back in about halfway down the wing. So I'm going to measure that up, transfer my hand, and a few nice tight wraps, a few loose wraps to the start, get that all set, and then you can squeeze down and flare that hair out. So that's my top section of hair. That's going to form my wing first of all with those tips, and these butt ends I'm going to trim out of here in a moment. Having a rotary vise is key for this as well. It means you can flip this fly upside down. We're going to create a few stacks of hair as we go forward towards the eye here. So I'm going to take another section of deer hair here. If you did decide to stack for that first one, you definitely don't need to stack for these next ones. We're going to trim all this hair out. You're not going to see any of the tips. So there's no need to stack this. Really important though still to get all that fuzz and underfur out. You can see that fuzz? That's what we're trying to get rid of. So make sure that's all cleaned out of there. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a section of deer hair right behind the eyes, but in between the body. In that little section there, that's going to be the back, the final bottom stack of this hair head. So offer that up there, transfer your hand, 2 loose wraps, 1, 2, and then you can crank it. There's my second stack, and you can wiggle your thread up towards the start there, so jump in front of the eyes, and this top hair I can pull back. So I'm going to do, depends, you can do 1, you can do 2 stacks, you can do 3 stacks. It all depends on how much, or your hair and how much you spin it. Rinse and repeat. Get all the fuzz out. Now the last 2 stacks of deer hair, we just stacked and tied them in. This one we're actually going to spin this deer hair. So we're going to lay this deer hair up halfway between the clump, just in front of the eyes there. I'm going to take loose wraps here with 1, 2, and on my 3rd wrap, I'm going to let go of my deer hair and pull the thread, and that's going to spin around the hook like that. And you can see, after I did that 3rd turn, you can see that deer hair spun around and done 1 complete wrap around the hook shank. I can then grab this, give it a bit of a tug, and there we go. So that's how you spin deer hair. It's a good technique to have. I've had many failed attempts doing that. I could finish the fly here. I could do a nice clean head there, but I want to finish this nicely with a bunch of deer hair at the front. What you can do with spun deer hair is you can actually pinch your fingers and just force it backwards along the hook shank. That's just going to give you a little extra space to work with, where I can do another small little spin of deer hair. Once we trim this up, this is going to be, what moves a lot of this water and really pushes a lot of vibrations out to the fish. Well, I think that's what happens anyway. So, same as before, just a smaller clump, going to offer that up. We're going to go 1 loose, 2 loose, and then 3 spin, like that. manipulate it around, get it all set, and now you can see I've got a nice clean eye there. Of 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Snip your thread out of there, and that's the tying portion done. Now you can clearly see we're not finished yet, it's all crazy, but we're going to trim this head up nicely and make it look like a perfect little brown trout pattern. So before we go anywhere, let's put a bit of head cement on the thread wraps. We've spent so long tying this fly that we might as well make it last for us. Now this is the tricky bit. We're going to shape this head into a nice little shape. So what we're going to do, first and foremost, we're going to make sure we've got all of our flash and our legs out of the way. So I've just got a little twist tie that I keep on my vise. What I can do is take all these legs and bits of flash, come back, and actually just wrap them down, wrap them out of the way while we're doing this trimming portion. The last thing you want to do is go to cut all your nice deer hair out and make a nice head, and you see one of your rubber legs fall off and hit the ground. It's the worst feeling, I'll tell you that right now. First, I'm going to trim the bottom. I use scissors for this. It's probably better to use a double-edged razor blade. You know, those double-edged razor blades, you can come in here and just slice it nice and cleanly. I've just got scissors today, but you can do it with either. Take all this deer hair up here, and we're going to do one nice flat cut on the bottom. Also make sure your hackle doesn't get caught up in this deer hair. So there we go. We can refine all this later, but that's sort of, we're just going to block in a few cuts here. So you can flip it up. Let's go one more cut directly sort of at a 45-degree angle back from the eye up to the back of the hair wing. You can always trim more, so if you go too short, you can't put it back on. So take your time here. Make sure it's all nice. All right, so there's my top cut. And now what I can do is, all I'm trying to make is a cone shape. So flat bottom with a nice cone tapering back to the back of the fly here. Nice cone shape. And on this far side too. So you can see there I've made a general cone shape where it's tapering back to the back of the wing. It's obviously not finished yet, but now you can sit here for hours and keep trimming, but you'll get to a point where you're obviously just done and you've got to accept, yep, looks good. And at the end of the day, the fish doesn't care if there's one hair out of place, you know. A general shape that's going to push water and taper back nicely is all you're looking for. So I'll start trimming this up here. Okay, I could sit here for hours trimming every little fibre out of that, but like I said, you get to a point where you just have to say, that's enough. So there we go. You can see I've left that wing off the back there, whether you've stacked it or not, and made a nice cone shaped with that deer hair. At this point, I can untie this twist tie and fluff up all your materials and check your work. What I can do as well, I trimmed that flash earlier, but I haven't trimmed these legs. And what I like to do is make these legs as long as I can. So I just come down here and snip them all off at the same length. Snip them all off like that. And there you have it. That's the Dudgeon, created by Kelly Galloup. Great fly to have. Works awesome on rivers or dams. You can tie this obviously in a lot of different colors. I tie this in the natural, in black, white, olive, whatever. It's good to have a couple of different colors of these. I really like these fishing on the drift boat as well. Pushes a lot of water, like I said, with that hair head, and it's just the weapon of a fly. So I hope you enjoyed. It's a long one, it's a slow burn, but awesome fly to have in the box.